Look, if you haven't been receiving style tips from the clothing experts at Peter Millar, you are missing out. If you enjoy golf like me, you know the name. If you don't, you should, because Peter Millar is all about quality, value, and style. It is the most comfortable clothing you'll ever wear. Right now, I'm wearing one of their performance polos. What you'll love about these Peter Millar polo shirts is that they offer so much comfort and style no matter what you're doing. And they're so easy to take care of, too. Out of the dryer, you don't have to put an iron to them. You'll never have to worry about what to wear to any occasion. Peter Millar is the go-to clothing for vacation, work events, golf courses, and even working out. Put it on in the morning and never look out of place. You'll always have just the right look. They are great for the golf course because they even have sun protection built in the shirt. The performance polo I'm wearing is the most comfortable shirt I've ever worn. And you'll say the same thing about everything you wear from Peter Millar. Right now, you can head over to petermillar.com/wingo to check out some of my Peter Millar favorites. Be sure to use my link and you'll receive complimentary shipping and a free hat. That's Peter Millar, MILLAR.com/wingo. petermillar.com/wingo.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
As we continue here on Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance, all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Everybody talking about what happened in Game 3 in the Western Conference Finals between the Rockets and the Golden State Warriors, where Steph Curry emerged from his slumber to score 18 in the third quarter alone and was absolutely fantastic and has them now on the brink of going up 3-1. With the game at home tonight. You can hear it on ESPN Radio, and it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And we played Billy Joel's Pressure because Mike and other Mike, there seems to be a whole discussion now between Mike D'Antoni, the Rockets head coach, and a response from Steve Kerr as to who the pressure really is on in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals.
I think this stuff gets a bit ridiculous because you view it through your own glasses. You view it through your own team. It's just like, in football, when you get to that bye week, is the bye week good or bad? If you were playing really well up to the bye week, oh no, the bye week's going to kill our momentum. No, it's not. No, it's good. We can rest. You always spin it to what works for you. You always spin it to what makes your team or put your team in the best position. So then you'll sit there and say, oh, the pressure's on them or the pressure's on us. You're going to say as a coach, because they do it publicly all the time, whatever, because the coach speaking publicly is really speaking to the team as well. They're going to say what they need to say that they think their team needs to hear in that situation.
It's self-serving bias. Yeah. It's the easiest example of that possible. But really, for the answer to this question, where the pressure is on, it is very squarely on one side, because pressure only comes with doubt, and there's only one side with reason to doubt itself.
Agree.
Well, so here's...
That'd be Houston, by the way.
That would be Houston, yes.
Yeah, no, if you heard that and thought Golden State, I would like to have you check for some sort of in concussion protocol for some sport.
So here now is the back and forth. Let's start with Houston head coach Mike D'Antoni.
Right now, to me, Golden State has all the pressure. They're going to win tomorrow night. We should come in with a little bit of swagger and giddy up in our game and see if we can get it.
All right, so that was him saying, the pressure's clearly on Golden State, because they got to win tomorrow night. I'm pretty sure I feel comfortable saying the Warriors feel comfortable that they can win in Houston, as they did in Game 1.
I would agree.
By double digits. So, of course, Steve Kerr was asked about, this is the classic media thing. Hey, that's what that person said. Yeah. Let's go get your reaction to what he said and see what you say to his reaction about your reaction. Here is Steve Kerr responding to the pressure all being on the Golden State Warriors.
We're at home. So if they win, they have home court advantage. So, pressure's on us and kind of on them, too.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. What are we doing here? Here's what goes on. Here's what goes on the court from the athlete side of it that I would think about is individual matchups. Let's talk about Cleveland and Boston. Now 2-2 going back to Boston. Forget who the pressure's on and who has to make the plays and all that.
It's very important to know who the pressure is on, Mike.
But very important. You know what the individuals think of? You know what's going to happen is when the switch happens and Terry Rozier is on LeBron again. That's what players think about. What happens then? Well, I know I would think about that. If I'm going to play a team, I'm looking at the individual I'm playing against, and if I haven't played well against that guy, I'm starting to think, okay, I got to play against this guy again. What am I going to do? So if Rozier is matched up on LeBron, that's what the players are thinking about. Players are going to go play, and they're going to get caught in those situations again where Horford gets, LeBron drives by him, or Rozier again is on him with no help. I mean, that's what goes through guys' minds like that. They know what they want to do offensively, but defensively, they're caught in that situation. They're like, okay, I just got torched in this last game. What am I going to do this time around?
It's doubt. It's that doubt in that situation when you see that matchup and go, how am I going to do this? And so when you're the Houston Rockets and you look across the court at Golden State, if you're not James Harden, who has rightly otherworldly confidence in himself and his ability, if you're not him, you look across the court and you see a guy that's better than you at every position on the court in this game. And so you can't help but, for most of those guys, because for the mere mortals, for the guys that aren't the otherworldly great players, everyone has some doubt because you know your flaws. If you're usually self-aware enough to know your flaws, you understand the positions that are going to compromise you. And so that's where doubt and that's where pressure comes from.
And don't get me wrong, Trey, what Mike's saying is right.
Yeah.
But you still think you can make the play.
Right.
Just because you look across, you say that guy overall is better. On this play, I can make the play. I would think that all the time. I'm going against Dwight Stevenson. I think I can make the play. I'm going against Anthony Munoz. I still think I can make the play. Now, overall, I'm going to lose more battles than I'm going to win, but the mental part of it is, or you have that one game where you win most of them.
Yeah.
But the mental part is, I'm going to win that play, even though that guy overall is better than me. But then if you get beat by that person over and over again, as Mike said, doubt starts to enter your mind.
This is all about how you're trying to get in somebody else's head. Let's be honest, okay? Because the pressure's really on Houston if you look at it this way. The last time the Warriors lost a home playoff game, you know what it was? Game 7, 2016, LeBron's block, Kyrie's shot. I mean, so you could say whatever you want. The pressure's on Houston because ain't nobody beat this team with Kevin. And basically what we're saying is, with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry playing, they've never lost a home playoff game. This team, as it's presently constructed, has never lost a home playoff game. So sorry, Mike D'Antoni, there's pressure on you too.
Can you play that Mike D'Antoni cut one more time, by the way?
Let's do it.
Right now, to me, Golden State has all the pressure. They got to win tomorrow night. You know, we should come in with a little bit of swagger and giddy up in our game and see if we can get it.
Tell me if I'm the only one hearing this. Is it me or does Mike D'Antoni always sound kind of drunk? Like just a little bit? Not sloppy or anything, but just kind of like, he had a few drinks before he
delivery?
came. Yeah.
Well, he's got that sort of soft, mellow delivery.
Yeah.
I think he sounds more like someone out of a Western that likes to say mosey and saunter. But
he's definitely moseyed or sauntered in his day.
He has moseyed or sauntered into a couple places in his life. Let's listen
into a saloon.
Let's listen one more time.
Right now, to me, Golden State has all the pressure. They got to win tomorrow night. We should come in with a little bit of swagger and giddy up in our game and see if we can get it.
He drives swagger, giddy up.
Swagger.
The next thing, if he says, hey, we moseyed in there and sauntered out if they win.
Yeah.
That's what's happening if that happens again.
You come here often, little lady?
So here's the bigger question. What do you believe in more? Pressure in a playoff game where both teams really have it, or momentum carrying in from one game to the next? What's more of a real thing?
Oh, I don't think that the momentum we talk about in baseball, the momentum is
next
the next day's starting pitcher. Well, especially with Cleveland. We don't know what player. There's been no other player that's been consistent, certainly not on LeBron's level, that you can go in and say, well, that's what we said yesterday before the game, right? Is what Boston wants to try and do. And with Cleveland, you have no idea because you don't know who's going to make the shots. You have no idea who is going to be the guy hitting those shots because they're not consistent. So there's no way I can sit here and say Cleveland has momentum going back to Boston where they didn't win because I don't know which players are going to hit their shots.
So what's more real? Pressure or momentum?
I think they're both made to.
You get mad at me when I have trouble with nuance in Love It or Show It. Make a choice.
Well, no, this is one I don't think. I think you
make a choice.
You position it to fit your team. I don't think there is. If there's pressure on both teams.
Yes.
I mean, come
Give
on.
us an answer.
Yeah.
Answer the question. Trey asked you a question.
I just gave the answer. It's
what's
made
your
up.
answer,
You didn't.
Junior?
I would say pressure is more real of the two. I think both are made up forces, but I'm going to say pressure manifests itself in more real ways.
Yes, and that's something that you can see actually play out in sometimes the way players, whether they're coming up short on things or they hesitate a little bit. I think pressure is a little more real than momentum because let's be honest, if you're 30-point blowout in the next game, LeBron scores 15 in the first quarter, that momentum is gone. But pressure is something that's tangible. You had a great line earlier as I was driving in. Did we get it clipped off? I'm not sure. You were talking about something your dad said, and it's like pressure is when your brain short circuits.
Red brain.
Yeah,
Red brain.
Yeah.
But you said short circuits. It was very funny.
See what? Someone on Twitter pointed that out too.
Yeah.
It's amazing. People just waiting out there. The minute you miss one letter in a word, they're ready and
Dude,
waiting.
welcome to my last 20 years.
Yeah.
By the way, now I feel bad. I've just become that guy on Twitter. I need a self-evaluation. All right, coming up, why is a league that's usually all about making money not interested in making money on something that could make them a lot of money.
Golic
and Wingo.
and Wingo.
Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. Golic and Wingo with you on a Tuesday morning, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up in just a little bit, Johnny Manziel will join us. Talk about his decision to go play for the CFL, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and what his long-term goal is. You know, he played in the spring league a little bit and showed some flashes, but it was pretty clear right away that he felt this was the best decision for him.
Well, yeah, I think after he did some pro days as well, and then did the spring league, and I'm sure was hoping there would be an offer to be on a roster. I remember we had RG3 sitting in here in studio when he was trying to get on a roster, and he eventually did in Baltimore, saying this was the time when you get that 90-man roster to get on a team and be able to go through the OTAs, and I'm sure that's exactly what Johnny was trying to do.
And we'll have him in just a minute. Meanwhile, as we wait for Johnny, let's get you started with what's trending. And what's trending was the Cavs beat the Celtics 111-102 to even the series at 2 games apiece. LeBron scored 44, his 6th 40-point game this postseason. So can we end the LeBron's the reason the Cavs aren't winning? Because that's just the most ridiculous argument.
Well, I mean,
I
think overall they were playing better defense. And a lot just, as we talked about, you know, the X's and O's wise, they were never great defenders, but you can always make up for it. And I've always said this with hustle, with closeouts, with switches, with how bad do you need to get to the position you need to be on the floor, covering who you're supposed to cover, closing out on who you're supposed to close out on. And you saw that. But is it based on the fact that you have a lead and it's going well? Because where you really find out is if things aren't going as well, how much are you still doing the things you need to do? Or do you just because we've heard time and time again when it's not going well, when they're not hitting their shots, they don't play as good a defense. It really kind of, when you think about it overall, it's kind of a poor way to go about your business. Yet here they are, you know, when it's going well, their defense and their hustle seems to go a ton better.
And it starts with LeBron, so he's got to continue to bring that energy, especially early when he can afford it.
Yeah, the Game 4 win by the Cavs is what everybody's talking about, brought to you by Lowe's, Pros in the Nose. Start with Lowe's. Go to lowesforpros.com for details. All right, glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo presented by Progressive Insurance. Whatever you're looking to insure, go to progressive.com, and they'll take care of that. But we are delighted to be joined now on the phone on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line by the newest member of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and that's quarterback Johnny Manziel. Johnny, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
We're happy to have you, Johnny. So, listen, obviously a lot of people have followed your career for a lot of years and everything that's going on at Texas A&M and the first-round pick with the Browns in 2014. Now your decision to go for the next 2 years and play up in the CFL with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. What made this the right call for you in your mind?
I think just getting a chance to play, you know, even if I would have jumped on somewhere in the NFL, I really feel like, you know, I'm not getting a chance to come in and play. You know, I'm going to sit there and learn, which is fine with me. But at the end of the day, you know, I've been out of the mix for a little bit, and I feel like I need to get back into the swing of things. And, you know, I've vetted a lot of options, and you know, from a lot of people that I talked to, they wanted to see me get some film, get some tape, and get back to playing. And you know, I think this gave me the best opportunity to do that.
We're there, Johnny. I know you were in a couple of pro days and then the spring league as well. Through that time in talking with NFL teams, how close did it ever come to signing with a team, if at all?
You know, I'm not really sure. That's probably a better question for maybe my agent. But you know, throughout the process this year, I was just glad to be back in the mix as far as going to some of these pro days. And getting back in the mix of working out and being around guys and throwing the ball around. So, you know, the spring league was good for me. I had a lot of fun down there. It got, you know, kind of my football motor going again as far as, you know, being in a camp, going to a practice, you know, throwing real routes on air and things like that. So I don't know how close it got. I know, you know, I talked to coaches that I had known and had a relationship with around the league and you know, kind of ask for advice. You know, I talked to other guys in the league, players, you know, that I had been around and who I trust, and you know, we just had talks about it, and you know, this is what it ended up turning out to be, and you know, I'm excited about it. It's a new chapter for me. It's a chance to get back the ball, and it's a great opportunity.
Talking to Johnny Manziel on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And Johnny, you brought it up yourself, reflecting on your time with the Browns, saying that you didn't prepare the way that you felt you needed to as a professional to be a quarterback in this league. So going through the spring league and heading to Hamilton now, has there been a player or players that you've talked to kind of help reshape that process and get a better handle on the way you want to prepare as a quarterback?
Yeah, I've said this multiple times in the past, but the guy that really opened my eyes to what it was and kind of, showed me the ropes and really got me on a schedule that I felt like was a really professional one was Josh McCown, and I still talk to him. I still use him as a great resource. He's always there whenever I give him a call just to talk about ball, and he was the guy that pretty much said, hey, you don't have to come in whenever I do, but if you want to really learn the ropes, I've been in a lot of different places. I have a lot of experience, and I'm willing to help you. And I definitely jumped all over that opportunity, and it was different. We had a good quarterback room. It was fun to be around the guys that we had in there, and it was fun really learning the ins and outs of everything that I didn't necessarily know whenever I was in college. There's a progression to learning a lot of these things, and he was a guy that really helped me out. So I feel like I'm taking the blueprint that I got from him and I got from when things were going well for me, and I'm trying to bring that up here.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because Josh McCown has been such a steadying influence on so many people, and a lot of people say, why is he still in the league? Because of that sort of thing. He's great at mentoring a lot of people, and I'm glad that you said that he's helping you. As Johnny Manziel is with us, now going to be with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Listen, what is it about the CFL and the way they play? Again, for people that may not know, there's only 3 downs, and a lot of times they don't punt on the 3rd down. They go for it. It's a wider field with a bigger end zone. What about the style of play and the way the CFL is played do you like about how it relates to your game?
Yeah, I'm obviously up here with Coach June Jones, and the way that we're running this offense, and I've just only been in it for a couple of days, but it's very interesting. It's a quick pace. There's an extra receiver on the field, and you're able to get some motion into some of these plays. So, it's a quick twitch, kind of finding holes in the defense and being able to kind of process everything really quick and get the ball out really quick. So, it's an interesting passing league because there are obviously 3 downs, and you're going to have to take some shots, especially on 2nd down, which is essentially 3rd down, comparable to the NFL. So, I'm still learning the ins and outs of it a little bit, but, what we're doing offensively and the way things are up here and what I've seen in the 2 days seem to be, pretty interesting. And it's it looks, with the field and everything that's going on, there's more space and you're able to try and put some of these defenders on the island. But, first couple of days, I'm still feeling it out, but it seems pretty cool.
I was going to say, I know it's only been a couple of days, but you've been playing on, NFL or college, that field for so long, and this is a different field, a different feel. In those couple of days, like what stood out to you almost immediately as the biggest difference in the game in Canada?
Well, when you get on the hashes sometimes, if you have a trips to the field, that outside guy, if you're trying to throw a hole shot or something like that, is definitely a lot further throw because the field is wider. Also, when you get down into what essentially would be the red zone, the end zone is a lot deeper too. So there's more room to do some things in the red zone and around the goal line. It gives you a little bit more creativity in what you're doing, gives you more space. But, right now I feel like I've got a better handle on the concepts that we have in offensively. But now it's just kind of seeing, how they play defense. Really, it's 1 high, 2 high, how they play their different coverages. It's been a little bit different.
Talking to Hamilton Tiger Cats quarterback Johnny Manziel on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, how much did the 2-year contract decision weigh on you? That 2-year commitment up there, as someone who had to make that decision a few years ago about going and playing potentially in Montreal, and understanding that you're now locked into that, and that passage of time can sometimes be to your detriment as a player trying to get back into the NFL.
Yeah, I definitely talked to people, and a multitude of people were like, go up there for a year and play and then come back. And I had to kind of explain to them that it wasn't really that easy,
Right.
The way that the rules are set up here. This is just the way it is. And, this was an opportunity that I got, and I had to take that into consideration. But at the end of the day, I'm back to playing ball. I'm back to, being on a team in the locker room, and that's what I really wanted. So if worse comes to worse, I got to be up here for 2 years. I'm still getting to do what I love. I'm still getting to do, everything that I've been missing for so long. So I'm not really looking at it as a detriment. I'm looking at it as an opportunity to still continue and try and get better. I think I have a very good coach who's developed quarterbacks in the past and had a lot of success with the quarterback position. So, I'm looking at this as an opportunity, just to get better as a quarterback. I need to continue to start seeing windows for throws and getting snaps and reading defenses. And that's something I get to do up here, and, I'm not taking that for granted.
Johnny Manziel with us on Golic and Wingo this morning, the newest quarterback of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Obviously reading and finding windows is one part of playing quarterback, whether it's the CFL or the NFL. The other part is all the other stuff that comes with it, the ancillary responsibilities and all those sort of things. And Johnny, before Super Bowl 50, we had Ryan Leaf on the show with us on NFL Live, and Peyton Manning was playing in that game. And I asked him, what's it like you being here with us on the set, and the guy that was drafted right ahead of you all those years ago is still playing? And one thing Ryan Leaf said was, I'd ask him how he did it, how he handled all the stuff that I couldn't handle very well and the stuff that became distractions for me. So with that in mind, obviously we're coming off a draft where 5 quarterbacks were taken in the first round, 4 in the top 10, including Baker Mayfield going to Cleveland. There's going to be a lot of expectations for all of these quarterbacks as first-round draft picks. So take away the idea of what happens on the field and doing the reads and understanding the playbook. What advice would you give to all of these guys, understanding the scrutiny, the pressure, all the things that come with being a number 1 pick as a quarterback, away from actually understanding the playbook?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you have to make football the main thing. And that's something that, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do all the time in my rookie year. I had to learn the hard way on some things and really was on a slower process as far as getting a handle on things football-wise. And, I was at a different place in my life, and, unfortunately for me, it took me a while to really figure things out, and I had to learn the hard way. But at the end of the day, I feel like I've got a chance to know some of these guys in this class, and people that I were around, they seem like really good dudes, like they have good heads on their shoulders. But it's all about the fit. It's all about getting into the right situation, and hopefully, with having been drafted as a first-round pick, these teams are heavily invested in these quarterbacks, and they'll help them get up to speed. But I feel like this was a good class, and it was really interesting to see play out in the draft. That's for sure.
And then, Johnny, of course, there's life off the field, not only while you're playing, but then when you're done playing, and it all ends for everybody at some point. And certainly you had some trials and tribulations off the field. Where is all that now? Where are you personally now?
I feel like, I'm in a completely different place. I've got a chance to get up here and just the gratitude that I have for being back on a practice field and the little things, having a locker again, being back around a group of guys in the locker room, is something that I feel like for a point in time had been so normal for me that, I didn't really understand how special it was. And when you're sitting there in August, September, October, November, and you're not playing and you're watching as anyone else watches on TV, and hearing your boys talk about fantasy football and all the other stuff that goes along with this, it really makes you miss the game, not going to meetings and not being, traveling on a Friday or Saturday and going to play these games. It's all I'd known for so long, and something I feel like, unfortunately, felt normal for me and like it would never go away. And then when it does, it kind of slaps you in the face. So, I've done a multitude of steps in my life to ensure success both on the field and off the field. Now it's really just putting those things, those words into action. And I've been here putting a lot of time into this playbook because it is, this happened really quick. I didn't expect to be up here this quick. I think there were some dates when we were going through this process about when I was going to have to be up here, and it happened quicker. This contract got done, and I was up here on a flight that night and up here the next morning by 6 a.m. on a red eye. So it happened quick, and at the end of the day, I'm getting back to what I'm doing, and I'm happy about it. I'm not taking that for granted. Every little thing that I'm back to doing right now, whether it's a full training camp day. I'm happy about it, and I'm very lucky to be in this situation that I'm in, because I feel like I have overcame a lot, and just learning from the past mistakes that I've made and not putting myself in bad situations again is the key thing.
Johnny Manziel with us this morning as he begins his career as a Hamilton Tiger Cats quarterback in the CFL. You said you missed the game, you missed it so much you want to be a part of this again. So this is really the beginning of another journey for you as you attempt to come back and hopefully one of these days in your eyes play again in the NFL. So I guess my question for you would, as you begin this process again, what would be considered a success for you? If it doesn't work out and you don't get back to the NFL, what in your eyes would be a win for you in this attempt to get back and play the game you love?
I feel like whenever I started out playing football and I was in high school, there was always that doubt period of if I would ever even make it to college. My high school career went the way that it did, and I got a chance to originally commit to Oregon and then finally end up at A&M. And I've done a lot throughout my time. I had a time there, my redshirt year, where things didn't go very well, and I was struggling with Coach Sherman's offense. And then Coach Sumlin comes in, and I didn't have the greatest spring whenever I was there. And then 6 months later, the Heisman and everything like that happens. And, my career so far, even through what I've done in college, has been a blessing to be able to have gone to A&M and got a chance to play, much less with all the things that we did there with Mike and Jake and Luke and all the guys that we had. I made brothers for life in that situation, and I've done a lot football-wise that, I didn't know if I would ever get a chance to do anything like this. So now, obviously, I'm not pleased with how my time went in the NFL. I have a lot of regrets about what happened in the past. But at the end of the day, I only have what I have in front of me right now, and that's this opportunity here. And I'm going to try and make the most of it. This is the best opportunity that I have. I've made a lot of mistakes where people are hesitant about, where I'm at and with what I've showed them in the past. So now it's just time to go out and do what I'm saying I'm doing and do the right things. But a success for me is just getting back to playing a preseason game that we have in a couple of weeks. That's a success for me, and go out and be competitive in this job. And, hopefully whenever I do get an opportunity, I make the most of it and play good, because I feel like there was a point, in time in the past where, I had spurts of playing good. I got a couple wins when I was in Cleveland, but it wasn't consistent. So, just getting a grip on this offense and going out and hopefully when I do get the opportunity, playing well, is what I expect to do. But, I'm not looking at it as a long-term thing down the road as far as what my expectations are here. Right now, I'm just trying to keep it, third day of training camp. Let's get to this first preseason game, and let's see how this thing is, because it is going to be a little bit different.
Johnny Manziel here with us on Golic and Wingo. Before we let you go, you mentioned your time with the Browns, and we asked you about advice for the first-round quarterbacks, but you were a Browns quarterback and someone who relished that opportunity of trying to return a franchise to prominence. So Baker Mayfield was their number one overall pick. He is in the shoes that you are in. What specifically would you tell him about the challenge with that team in that city?
Yeah, there's obviously some pressure on him being the way the organization has been over time. They haven't had that ton of success that some teams are accustomed to, and they're trying to get back to that. But what I look at in Baker's situation is he obviously has another quarterback in the room who has veteran experience, who I feel like can really play. So, just be ready when his name is called, whenever that may be, and try to block out whatever you can of the pressure and what people are having to say, because when you get to that first day of training camp, the cameras will be in Cleveland. He obviously has Hard Knocks going on, and there's things like that that can try and, bring distractions to everything that's going on. But I feel like Baker will have a good grip on everything, and he'll, be focused enough to get to where he needs to be to get ready to play whenever that is, But I feel like, they've done a good job in the last couple of years as far as the draft goes. They've lost guys like Joe Thomas, unfortunately, because that's a guy you really can't replace with what he brought to that town and what he brought to that team. But, I feel like he'll be fine, and I'm definitely pulling for him.
Well, Johnny, we'll see how it plays out with you for the Hamilton Tiger Cats and what may or may not come after that. But we appreciate you being up with us this morning, and best of luck. Looking forward to that first preseason game.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, all the best, my friends. Thank you.
Johnny Manziel with us.
What I love, some of the things I like hearing is, it's time. It's not words anymore. He has to put them into action, and that's what we hear a lot. When people don't fulfill what you thought they were trying to fulfill or where they were picked and what the expectation was. sometimes you hear a lot of words, but as he just said, it's about action now. And you know, as Trey, you and I have said, we have our doubts that he's going to be able to make it back to the NFL, but you know, he's willing to go take the shot. You know, he's willing to have football back in his life and now with a different perspective on where he was with it in his life and how he didn't handle it well too. Now he gets kind of a second act, even though it's starting up in Canada, which at least I think kind of brings him back to a place that he wanted to be. Now he gets to try it again, and he hopes this time the right way.
Yeah, as you go through these alternate leagues, you find out how much the rest of that means to you and how much you value it, because there might be a point where that's all he has. I don't know how long the camera stays fixed on Johnny based on how his career starts up there, and so those are going to be the things that are going to carry him when the spotlight goes away, potentially.
Well, and that's the interesting thing when you brought up the Browns specifically. The Hard Knocks thing is going to be interesting because they're going to try and make it the Baker Mayfield show.
Sure they are.
And can you imagine if they had been the Hard Knocks when Johnny was there in Cleveland? That would have been all about what Johnny Manziel was going to do. And, you know, by his own words, some of the things that he was distracted by, that would have been a really bad thing for Johnny. We'll see if Baker and the Browns can figure out a way around that a little better.
By the way, the thing I have, at least with my last name in common now with Manziel, the all-time roster for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, which will include Johnny Manziel, 1956 and 1957. Offensive tackle, Bob Golic.
There you go.
Yeah.
All there together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him, "Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash." His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all good.
Golic
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
and Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Sometimes the show just takes bizarre turns.
Yeah, it does.
And you know what? That's okay.
The amount of tweets, and we'll get to them, we're getting on the reclining of the seat has been unbelievable.
I would imagine that most people are against it.
It would seem so, though there are cases for as well, the other side.
You got to fight for your right.
Really
to recline.
impressive.
That's just the way it goes.
Okay.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and that's where we go now for our next guest. ESPN NBA analyst Chauncey Billups joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app, join, and start saving 5 cents a gallon today. Chauncey, good morning. Right now, as we look at the Eastern Conference Finals to begin with, after what we saw in Game 4, where is your confidence meter in the Celtics' ability to keep winning at home or LeBron's ability to keep finding ways to get to the NBA Finals?
Man, first of all, good morning, guys. I tell you, I think in a 2 out of 3 game series at this point, most times out of not, you got to go with the best player in the series. You know, Boston got a lot of guys that haven't been here before. You know, ignorance is bliss sometimes in these situations. You see how good Tatum is playing, Brown is playing. But LeBron James he's been here before, you know, and he's had big nights in Boston before. And obviously he has to have one of those big nights.
Chauncey, we've talked so much about defense, whether it's X's and O's or whether it's effort out there. So tell us on the defensive end in basketball, outside of the switching and closing out and things X's and O's you're supposed to do, how much of it is, you know what, I just want to get it done? What's my want-to level?
Well, I think it's both, but at the end of the day, it's more will than anything. I mean, it really is. I mean, you guys are good. It's the NBA. You can't stop anybody. It's a level of making it difficult, you know, that's important, and just toughness and just saying, listen, he may get 35, 40, but he's going to work for every single one of those baskets, and he's going to understand at the end of the game, man, that boy was competing against me. Those are two totally different things, you know, in my opinion. And oftentimes in the league today, I mean, I don't see that kind of competition and competing on the defensive end.
Well, we certainly saw that last night, especially for the Cavs. They were all over the floor. I mean, Kyle Korver diving for loose balls, had 3 blocks. I mean, I don't think anybody saw that coming. So The question then becomes, Chauncey, and you can explain to this better than anybody else, as you were in the league for so long, you know what it takes to be a champion. Why is it in this playoff series specifically, both teams are so completely different, whether they're at home or on the road?
Well, you know what? It's so, I was just having a conversation with a buddy of mine yesterday. They talk about all these blowouts in the playoffs and stuff. And to be honest, I just think it's because the three-point shot is so prevalent nowadays that you can really get going on that three-point shot and blow any team out. You really can. I mean, I don't know about the 40-point loss the Rockets took. I can't blame a 40-point loss on that, especially with two good teams that way. But I just think the three-point shot is so loud in our game now, and that's the reason why a lot of these teams and games are blowouts.
Talking to our ESPN NBA analyst, Chauncey Billups, 2004 NBA Finals MVP, third overall pick out of Colorado back in the 97 draft. Chauncey, talk about role players that you had on your team. And we always talk about they play better at home than on the road. And then role players, and I was one of those in the NFL, of kind of knowing your lane, knowing what your job is.
Well, most of the really, really good teams have really, really good role players. I mean, obviously they're going to have some stars on their teams, but most of them are going to have really good role players. I mean, in particular, a couple of the ones that I could speak to, some of my good teams, is Tayshaun Prince, who I felt was the ultimate teammate, sacrificed a lot. He took all the tough defensive assignments, even though we all enjoyed playing defense in Detroit. Some of the guys on the bench, Lindsey Hunter, Mike James, Darvin Ham, guys like that they came to do their job, and they adopted, Coach Larry Brown would always, and you hear this a lot now, encourage guys to be a star in your role, because some people, your talent level don't allow you to be a star in the NBA, but be a star in your role. And guys bought into that. And we were good because of that. Because truth of the matter is, some nights I was the role player and Rip was the main guy, or some nights Rasheed was the main guy and I was the role player. Ben Wallace, we felt, was a star every night on the defensive end. So that accepting and embracing that role is a big deal.
It certainly can be. And again, it certainly sees like people tend to do that better at home than they do on the road. Let's switch it over to the West as Chauncey Billups, 2004 NBA Finals MVP, is with us. And you have this little back and forth between the head coaches now, Chauncey, with Mike D'Antoni saying, the pressure's all on Golden State because they got to win at home. And then Steve Kerr's like, well, yeah, I guess we do, but the pressure's on them too. Let's be honest. The pressure's on Houston, because if they go down 3-1, there is literally zero chance they're winning this series, right?
Yeah, make no mistake about it. The pressure's definitely on the Rockets. I think that's Coach D'Antoni. He's kind of coaching through the media. He's coaching through TV. He's probably telling his team that for the last couple of days, and now he's duplicating that same message just to try to take the pressure off of his guys internally. But we all know that if this team goes down 3-1, this series will be over quick. And I think they know that too, and they'll probably play with that kind of urgency tonight.
While Golden State, we know, is a deep team, if Iguodala is out with the sore knee, what does that do in a positive way for Houston, if anything, in your mind?
Well, will be a big loss. I mean, we say it on NBA Countdown all the time. That's their Swiss Army knife. He's dependable. He takes different matchups. He makes big plays when the game is on the line. He just knows how to play. You talk about one of those role players. He just knows how to play. And that's going to change some things. Maybe they can't play small. Maybe they have to play one of those big guys. Maybe Nick Young has to play some extended minutes. But whoever they play will probably likely not have the same impact as Iggy will on both ends.
So we'll find out whether Andre Iguodala plays for the Golden State Warriors. As Chauncey Billups is with us tonight, looking ahead to Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. Listen, James Harden had a great regular season last year and then flamed out in the postseason against San Antonio. He had a great Game 1 where he dropped 40. But how much are people going to look at James Harden if he has another struggling game tonight, which he has sort of gone through after that big first performance?
Well, listen, man. He's probably going to be the MVP of our league this year, and deservedly so. When you don't play big in the playoffs, that people should talk about you because they're going to talk about you when you play great. That's the responsibility that you have. This is a huge, huge game for James Harden tonight. To me, for his legacy, we've seen him have some huge meltdowns, in the playoffs. We've even seen him have a huge one a couple years ago against this team, and he's going to need to come out and show some fight, and show some toughness out there on both ends because they're going to be depending on him. And a lot of people say Chris Paul's pressure on him too, and it is. But this is the MVP. This is James Harden. This is his team. He's got a lot of pressure tonight.
All right, Chauncey. Now to the important question: when you're flying on a plane, do you just without even looking behind you, put your seat all the way back and recline without any concern for the person behind you? And if someone in front of you puts their seat all the way back on you, do you have a problem with it?
You know what? I always take into consideration that person behind me because I've too many times been the person that's getting the seat let back on. So I try to look at it and say, what would I want if it was me? So that's what I kind of do. It doesn't work out in my favor a lot of times, but it's still me. I gotta live with myself.
See, that's why you're a better person than we are. Just wanted you to know that right now. And that's why you're Mr. Big Shot, as his nickname was.
There you go.
He was never afraid to take the big shot, and we'll see what happens tonight in Game 4 between the Warriors and the Rockets. Chauncey, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Chauncey.
Hey, thanks, guys.
By the way, the Warriors just so... Well, go ahead.
No. I love that line, be a star in your role.
Yeah.
I love that because let's be honest, there are more role players in this league than stars in this league. So be a star in your role. That is a great line.
By the way, just so you understand how good the Warriors have been, we said they haven't lost a home game since Game 7 of the 2016 finals. They haven't trailed in the fourth quarter of any of the last 11 home playoff games. They're on a 16 straight home playoff winning streak. It's just really, really amazing how tough they are at home. So, Mike D'Antoni, we love you. You can say whatever you want. A lot of pressure on the Rockets to try and turn those stats around. All right, coming up next, the NFL says we don't want any more money.
What?
Which is not something they say a lot. We'll get to that, Mike, after this.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
Glad you're with us on Golic and Wingo on a Tuesday morning. On ESPN Radio and ESPN News, we are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Louis Riddick will join us in just a little bit, front office insider in the NFL. We'll find out what he thinks about players missing OTAs, which are voluntary.
Yes, they are.
They're voluntary. What does it mean? Does it mean more for one team or one person not being there than the other? We'll get to all of that. Golic and Wingo is presented by Body Armor. It's time to ditch your outdated sports drink and switch to Body Armor Sports Drink. With natural flavors and sweeteners and no colors from artificial sources, Body Armor is the more natural, better sports drink.
We're going to get to what's trending in a second. I can't believe the response from the reclining of the seats on a plane. I guess I can too because this involves everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Should you recline your seat the entire way? And if you're sitting behind that person, do you have a right to be mad at that person? We have Mark who tweets in, as a regular business traveler, here's the deal on reclining the seat. There aren't rules, but there's etiquette.
That's fair.
Like if you are at the bulkhead in coach and recline your seat all the way into another adult, you are a jerk. But you paid for the seat, so it's your call.
Well, right, but I understand it. But to me, like bulkhead, I hate bulkhead. Do you like bulkhead?
No, I don't like bulkhead.
Because there's no legroom.
Right.
So to me, if there's no legroom, it feels like you should have more ability.
Yeah, to lean back. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Again, I'm not dying on this hill for anybody.
Boy, there are a lot of people that are, though. Holy smokes.
I want to be clear about that. And by the way, let me just say, we appreciate all of your opinions.
Yes, we do.
And we're happy to have them all. You know what else we're happy to have?
What?
Our NFL front office insider.
We're very happy.
Louis Riddick just ambled in. Mm-hmm. I think he's an ambler.
What's an ambler?
Hey, you just
kind of amble.
Saunter, the same word.
Swagger. Yeah. You just sort of do what you want to do when you want to do it.
I was just trying to be quiet, man.
You did well.
I was listening to you guys talking about dying on hills and stuff on bulkhead.
Well,
I don't like bulkhead seats either.
Yeah, so right. So if you're in
because
bulkhead,
I always get like confused because I want to put my bag like right in front of me, and then they're like, "You can't do that, sir." And it's like,
you got to put it up. We'll get it for you in flight. Yeah.
I hate when somebody tries to tell me what to do with my briefcase.
Yeah,
I can't stand.
Don't
I'll
touch
do
my
that.
stuff.
Yeah, I'll do that one.
and I see any of you guys touching my stuff.
Yeah.
I'll kill you. Lighten up, Francis. But seriously, so you're with me. Bulkhead, you should be able to recline your seat because you don't have the leg room.
Sure, why can't you recline your seat anyway?
See,
my God.
You don't like that. You know what?
No, I don't have a problem with
I
it.
will say this though. I am always aware of who's behind me.
Yes.
I always look back. I'm telling you, I've been on a few flights now.
People just crank them back.
Take that and rewind
Nothing
it back.
will send me nuclear quicker than someone just goes wham.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and they don't even turn around.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's my seat, dude. It's my. I'm like,
well, that's what we're talking about. My son said anybody that does that should be on a no-fly list. They shouldn't be able to.
I mean, you should at least like look back.
Look
and be
back.
Like,
That's what
I
do.
Good?
I look back.
At least that's all you have to say. Are you good? I mean,
Right.
most people are going to say, yeah. They'll figure out a way to
manage around.
They're not going to be like, no, I'm not good.
The response we're getting is unbelievable on this thing of both.
What? Oh, really?
Both that these people should never be on a flight again. To hey, it's their seat, it's their right to do. It's unreal.
It's
unreal.
Yeah.
This just in. People have opinions.
Yes, they
and
do.
They feel very strongly about them.
And they express them on Twitter.
And yes, well, Twitter. Well, my thing on Twitter outrage is people get so mad at Twitter. They get so mad that the next day they find something else to get mad about that they forgot they were so mad about the previous day.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. But
Old Twitter.
But we're happy that it's there to vent your frustrations.
Absolutely.
And we are happy that our front office insider, Louis Riddick, is here joining us, giving us a Straight Talk in studio, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, one of the things we were talking about in the NFL is we're trying to figure out, because we're in the, air quote, voluntary OTA session. There's a lot of big-name players that aren't there. So the question then becomes, is it a bigger deal for some teams rather than others that some of these players aren't there? For example, let's start randomly with Julio Jones. Julio Jones has several years left on his contract. He went through that purge where he deleted all Falcons-related material on his Instagram and Twitter, although he said, or people were saying at a time, it was a teaching tool to help Alabama. Look, that sounds wonderful, but I'm not believing that. He sees the contracts that Antonio Brown is getting and Mike Evans is getting, and I'm sure he's like, yeah, this contract that I signed a couple years ago, it was good at the time, but it's a little antiquated. So how much of a big deal to you as a front office guy is it that you know where Julio Jones is paid and other players and other receivers at his position are above him, and suddenly he's not there?
As a front office person, look, you're always worried about precedent, right? You're always worried about opening up contracts that you just signed in 2015. He was at 14.25 a year. Look, obviously, he's performed up to expectations without a doubt. Since he signed that contract, he leads all wide receivers in the NFL in reception yards, and I think he's fourth in receptions.
Correct.
So when he sees people making, like, there's like 4 guys I believe who are making 16 plus a year, and then AB's top in the market, he's sitting there going, wait a minute, why is Jarvis Landry getting paid more than me? Why did Sammy Watkins getting more than me? I'm the one who helped Matt Ryan get the money he's getting. Now, from a front office side, you sit back and you go, but Julio, we just signed you in 2015.
Right.
We understand we don't have to do anything. Plus, we have other players we're trying to sign and a team we're still trying to build. So we can't just start opening up everybody's contract that outperforms. That's the risk you take. That's the chance you take when this kind of thing happens. I get it, because the dude is a bad dude now. There's no doubt about that. The Falcons need him.
That's undebatable.
But it's a business. You just can't open up everyone's contract. And we get that as players. Although, I mean, look, Julio, I get where he's coming from, but if I'm on the front office side, I'm saying, look, you're going to have to wait your turn. You just are, because we have other things that we need to do.
There are different situations. He has multiple years left. You have guys that are on the franchise tag. They only have till July 15th, or then it's just playing on that. And then there's the Aaron Donald, the Odell Beckham, the Khalil Mack, the Zach Martins of the world.
Yep.
Let's start with Aaron Donald, the best player in the league, it looks like. Where do you think this goes? Do you think he is the one player of all that is in most danger of skipping time?
He should be. If I'm him, I am. Because, look, I don't know the inner workings of what's going on out there in L.A. I don't know what is the hang up here, what kind of demands he's making, and where they see his market topping out at. I just know this. This guy is pretty much the perfect player in today's NFL. In any day and age. since 2015 again. I mean, I've been looking up this stuff because, look, I have a definite affection and connection to Aaron because of where he's come from and how good he is. He leads the league, all defensive tackles and sacks, tackle for loss, forced fumbles since 2015. And he's blowing them away.
It's not even close.
He's blowing them away. He's making under $7 million this year. Fletcher Cox's contract tops out at $17 per year at defensive tackle. He's playing on his fifth-year option. You've known for 2 years now he wants an extension, and he continues. Just look at his Instagram. You think, Aaron's taking care of himself. He's going to be ready to roll. You have to get this done. And if I'm him, I'm not coming there. I'm not stepping foot inside of that facility to look. I have done everything you've asked me to do off the field. Never an issue with Aaron Donald. Nothing. And when I come on the field, I've already proven I don't need training camp or OTAs, and I'll come in here and I'll wreck shop. I'll still be Defensive Player of the Year. And I'm a good guy.
Right.
Pay this guy. His own team, Marcus Peters just came in there and said, look, pay this guy. What's the problem here? What's the problem with a guy like this?
So why do you think that hasn't gotten done?
I have no idea.
Because it does seem puzzling.
I have no idea unless I really don't know. I don't. And I'm not even going to venture a guess other than to say this. If I'm in that seat now, if I'm the GM now and I'm a contract negotiator or a team president, I literally am going, look, I don't want to blow up my salary cap structure overall, obviously. But we have to get this guy in here because this is a bad look. And at some point, he's going to get ticked off. And other guys are going to start going, wait a minute. Look at all the people we brought into this team this year that we're paying some good money to.
Right.
And we're making a run, obviously. We're still trying to take advantage of the fact that Jared Goff is on his rookie contract,
that's
right?
That's the thing.
So, and we bought all these other guys in here. This guy is like the pillar. He's the guy. You know, he plays your position.
Yeah,
what has he not done?
Well, I'm with you. It's like we're not on the inside there. We don't know what's holding us up, but it is somewhat surprising.
Yeah.
And
if I'm him, I'm not coming close to. I'm just like, that's it.
So the other side of that now is Odell Beckham, who has shown up at OTAs, and is this a goodwill move on his part?
Absolutely. I mean, that's great awareness on his part as to what the questions are about him, which is, fairly or unfairly, and people fall on both sides of this one too, whether or not he has matured, whether or not he's a guy you can trust, not to break the law and get in trouble and get thrown in jail, but whether or not he's a guy who's going to do things the right way, represent himself the right way, represent the Giants the right way, be a team player. He's aware of that. He's aware that the questions are out there. So he's going to come in there and say, hey, look at where I'm at in my rehab. Look how good I look. You think I'm not putting in the time? You think I'm not serious about being one of the greatest wide receivers ever to play? Now, how serious are you about taking care of me? So, yeah, it is. The ball is definitely in Dave Gettleman's court and Mr. Mara's court right now. Now it's just a matter of, okay, on their side, they're going to say, well, is he just doing what we want him to do? And then when we give him his money, okay, there's going to be those questions about, always. But he's done what he has to do. It's now on the Giants.
It is, as Louis Riddick, our front office insider, is with us. Because, look, this was sort of a feeling out process with a new general manager and a new head coach. And then, of course, the tape came up from France and all that kind of stuff. And people can say that they were never going to trade him, but there was a point in time where they were listening.
Sure.
And I think the Brandon Cooks trade from New England to the Rams sort of scuttled that for both teams because that was the thing that might have actually got this thing done. So, what do you put... I guess the question is, who's more likely to show up when the rubber meets the road, training camp and preseason games, Aaron Donald or Odell Beckham Jr.? Because he's already said 0 preseason snaps until he gets a contract.
You know what? I don't know. I would think Aaron would be the one who would show up maybe before, because obviously Odell's coming off of injury also. So if I'm him, I'm definitely not risking anything. But if I'm either one of them, I'm not showing up. Okay?
Yeah.
Until I get my deal in play. I'm not showing up. I've proven everything I need to prove. And that's funny for me because, I'm sitting on both sides of it. Of course, I would want the guys in there. But I can honestly say this. Honestly, if I'm Les Snead, if I'm out there in L.A. right now, I'm not mad at Aaron at all if he doesn't show up, if I'm not getting this done at this point, because there's nothing more he can do. There's nothing. So I'm not holding that against him saying, get in here before we, get a deal done. And if I'm Odell Beckham, looking at how he's taking care of himself right now, would I like him to be there so we could help him rehab? I still wouldn't put him on the field, but would I want him to rehab underneath our watch? Yeah. But both of these guys, look, they deserve their money. I wouldn't hold it against either one of them if they sat out, because I understand where they're at in their career and what they believe they deserve, and they have a right to feel that way.
The only leverage a player has is withholding his services when it matters the most. So we'll see where these guys go. And then there's other situations of not showing up to OTAs just because you're not showing up to OTAs or whatever the reason is. And that's Tom Brady, a guy who's been there.
Gronkowski.
And Gronkowski. Brady, who's been there all the time. Now, all of a sudden, he's not. We know a little bit of what's going on in there, but your take on that, and is there a long-term effect?
Well, there will probably be an effect in terms of how quickly coming out of the gate in the preseason they're able to hit on all cylinders, especially introducing new players to that offense. Because when you study that offense and you talk to people who have been in and around that offense, there's so much nuance involved, especially in the passing game. Who better to have than Tom Brady there to help you understand it, experiment with it, learn the ins and outs of it at times like this when there's really no pressure, right? This is the time where you really make tremendous growth. I know as a player I did. OTAs were invaluable to me. So him not being there and then Gronk not being there to help the receivers out, that's huge for on-the-field performance. As far as whether or not they're going to take care of themselves and be ready to roll, yeah. But see, that's the advantage that these guys get is that their best players are there all the time.
Right.
And they're helping all these new guys. That's why they're always humming like a machine coming out of the gate every year. Well, now that he's not there, what kind of effect is that going to have on the football team on the field? As far as the relationship between him and Bill or him and Mr. Kraft and Bill, Gronk, I mean, that's all. We can sit here and speculate about how mad they are at each other, but I'm just talking about on-the-field performance. Yeah, it could affect them.
And that's what's different, as Louis Riddick is here, NFL Front Office Insider. I mean, Tom has been the champion of the Patriot way.
Sure.
You know, he's never been the highest-paid quarterback in football. He's always been the guy. I mean, he's always been the guy that showed up for this stuff unfailingly, no matter what. So he's clearly making a statement with the way he's handling himself. What do you think that statement is?
I think it's that, look, I've reached a point in my career where I think I have more awareness now as to where I'm at in my career and what my legacy is and what I mean to this organization than I've ever had. And I think it's time that I kind of maybe take back some of the control about what I do with my time and how I prepare, and not necessarily step outside of the Patriot way, but I'm gonna do a little bit more of Tom Brady's way now.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
I've
earned
the
it.
TB12 method.
Yeah, I've earned it and I deserve it. And my play on the football field is proving it. Now, look, I think Devin McCourty has said, and many players have said many times, when your best players are the ones who are the hardest workers, it's everyone benefits.
Trickle down economics.
I don't think all of a sudden a bunch of guys are going to be going, well, since Tom's not here, I'm not going to show up. No, it
doesn't work that way.
The Patriot way is bigger than even Tom.
You're not Tom Brady.
You will show up. Oh, I don't think. Yeah. So when people say, is this the end of the Patriot way? The Patriot way is bigger than Tom.
Yeah.
The Patriot way is going to be something that stands pat and is continued on even when Bill leaves. You'd be a fool not to. They've had too much success with it. You better keep it in place.
A guy like Richie Incognito, who said he was going to retire and then comes back and says he wants the Bills to release him. He gets his wish, the Bills released him. Is there going to be a market for him?
I think it'll be a late developing market. I mean, I will say this: guards aren't throwaway players anymore, and you know how the league has changed as far as position value. But I think it's one of those where right now, look, teams are in the mode right now of cutting down, not necessarily adding. They have their rosters pretty much set unless someone just blows them off their feet from a talent perspective and they go, we have to add this guy. So right now, look, you just have to sit and wait. And teams they're in the assess mode. They're going to look at what they've got. Maybe want to develop for them once training camp starts rolling around and people get out of the summer mode after they get through these OTAs.
Okay, so again, we're sort of in the last gasp of the offseason where front office guys, as Louis Riddick is here with us, our NFL insider, and coaches feel like they have control. Mm-hmm. And then in a couple of weeks, we're getting into I don't have control of these players. I don't know what's going to – and we see it every year, Louis.
Yep.
We see it every year. Somebody shows up somewhere and does something incredibly stupid. As a front office and as a coaching staff, how concerned are you about – June through mid-July, when you can't see the players, you can't touch the players, you can't be around the players, and you know that you'd rather have them in the building where you can be working them, but they're on their own, and a lot of them have expendable income.
Well, you know that there's always a couple guys on your team that are knuckleheads that you have to worry about. You just do. Now, obviously, you try to do the work when you're building your team, and you go, we try to get guys, obviously, who are great football players, but we also want to have guys who are good decision makers, and they understand, look, man, you're not robots, you're not choir boys. Yeah, we get all that, but don't compromise the team. Don't compromise yourself. So sure, it's a time where you're sitting back and you're going, man, I just hope some number doesn't pop up on my phone that doesn't have a caller ID on it that I know, and I go, who is this? And next thing you know, it's we got a problem.
Right.
Sure, it's a scary time, and you know which guys you're worried about. You do. You just do, and some teams will be checking in on those guys a lot. It's just the way it works. Man, it's never going to change.
You're like a parent just doesn't want to get that phone call.
That's right.
That's what you are. How do you think the whole gambling thing is going to have an effect on the NFL?
That's a great question, Mike. I mean, I don't really know.
Mike Golic gets a great question award today.
It really is, because I mean, it's such a loaded question, right? I mean, there's so many different things that can come into play as far as, piquing your interest, with making sure the integrity of the game remains intact and no one feels compromised and everything just remains on the level. I don't really know. I'm really not a big gambler. Especially when it comes to sports. Heck, I don't even really play fantasy football. I mean, gambling to me is about, maybe putting a couple of bucks on, on black on roulette,
or on Justify in a couple of weeks. Although your odds wouldn't be too good.
I don't know. I don't really know.
Do you think it's already legal in Nevada. Do you think players, there'll be more opportunity, or there is a risk of them getting compromised?
I would assume there could be. I mean, I just don't know. I don't really swim in those waters. I don't know what happens in the gambling world as it relates to, just how big it is. I really don't. I mean, I know that sounds a little naive, but I'm just not someone who really has been into the whole gambling thing and how it could really ultimately affect the game. I'm sure it could. You hope that it doesn't. You hope the league safeguards it and protects the players and makes sure that the game remains, on the level as much as possible. I mean, so we'll see. If you were a league, would you try and get a cut?
Because the NBA
try to get a cut.
Because the NBA's basically said we want 1% of the action.
If I'm a businessman like I know the guys in the league are, yeah, of course. But they're always trying to grow the game.
But the one thing that's interesting there is, like, Adam Silver's come out and said we want a piece, and they talked about air quotes integrity fee. Roger Goodell's statement made no mention of that, but they did use the words which key legal action, intellectual property.
Well, hey, time will tell.
Yeah.
They got some smart people who work in the NFL office. I'm sure they'll figure it out. Just protect the game.
Yeah.
Just protect the players, protect the game.
Well, you can protect the game and protect your opinions of the game by listening to a guy like Louis Riddick, who knows a thing or two about everything, including what to do with a reclining seat, especially if you're in bulkhead.
Yeah, just look back at me and say, is this good? Don't slam my knees, man.
Don't at me.
It's about etiquette.
Don't at me.
A little bit etiquette.
It's just about etiquette.
Really. I mean,
there are no hard and fast rules, but understand that there's etiquette. There's nuance in this situation.
The beauty,
I like that word. Nuance is the word of the day.
The beauty is, though, the tough guys you get out there. Kyle tweets in, I don't allow reclining in front of me.
Really?
If that seat starts to decline, I push back with my hands or knees. Okay, Kyle, you win Tough Guy of the Day award on Twitter.
Way to flex your... Wow. Kyle's the Twitter muscle guy of the day.
Watch out!
Don't sit in front of Kyle, because Kyle will push back with his hands and his knees.
Oh, my God.
Kyle going strong to the hoop. All right.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
All right, Golic and Wingo reminding you that 30 for 30 podcasts are back.
Boy, this is a wild one.
It's crazy. And we've both done this. This season takes you deep into the complicated world of Bikram yoga. Now, its founder used connections with guys like Hall of Famer Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, tennis star John McEnroe, also a Hall of Famer, and others to start spreading his hot, aggressive yoga to the world. And if you've ever taken a Bikram yoga, you cannot take Bikram yoga without the word aggressive being in there.
Very true.
That's part of the dynamic. However, Bikram's guru status enabled increasingly dark behavior. It's a story you have to hear to believe. Subscribe to 30 for 30 podcasts in the Listen tab of ESPN app or on Apple Podcasts. And we both have dabbled with Bikram.
Yeah, we have.
And I think we found it beneficial, but I also feel like you just beat up when you come out of there from a mental standpoint.
I got tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. I need a little variety, in my workouts and such. So we did it, me and my wife, for a few months. But this sounds, the dark side of it.
There's some,
I went and did my poses and I left. And all of a sudden now this is pretty wild.
No, it is a significant thing. And there's a lot of stuff that went down there that is really, really interesting. Another interesting road that we're going to go down in the sports world. It's a brave new world for us.
Yep.
Basically with the idea that there could be legalized gambling in any state that wants it. The Supreme Court a week or two ago shot that down, that the ban outside of anywhere outside of Nevada. And it looks like New Jersey's going to be first into the pool. They want to get this thing up and running by the NBA Finals.
Yes, they do.
That's their thing. So everybody is trying to weigh in and figure out how do we navigate this new system. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has sort of been proactive. He's been sort of bracing the league for this inevitability for a while.
He's been saying, knowing this was coming about and trying to find ways now to maximize its value.
Yeah, and he's saying, he want as much as 1%.
Right. Piece of the action.
Yeah, piece of the pie. Now we'll figure out whether that actually happens because they've been gambling in Nevada for a long time and they haven't given anybody a piece of the pie. But then NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell issued a statement regarding the sports betting. And basically it goes like this. As it was for my predecessors, there is no greater priority for me as the Commissioner of the National Football League than protecting the integrity of the sport. Our fans, our players, and our coaches deserve to know what we are doing and that we are doing everything possible to ensure no improper influences affect how the game is being played on the field. The week's ruling by the Supreme Court has no effect on that unwavering commitment. We've spent considerable time planning for the potential of broadly legalized sports gambling and are prepared to address these changes in a thoughtful and comprehensive way, including substantial education and compliance training. We are asking Congress to enact uniform standards for states that choose to legalize sports betting that include, at a minimum, 4 core principles. There must be substantial consumer protections. Sports leagues can protect our content, and here's that word again, intellectual property, for those who attempt to steal and misuse it. Fans will have access to official, reliable league data, and law enforcement will have the resources, monitoring, and enforcement tools necessary to protect our fans and penalize bad actions here, at home, and abroad. What Goodell's statement does not have is any mention of some sort of integrity fee, which is exactly what Adam Silver had talked about. Basically, the NFL is saying, yeah, guys, let's make sure this is legislated, but we don't want a piece of the action here. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me the way the NFL has treated this. They have treated this like the plague.
Yes.
We want no part of it. But it's one of those things that I think the inevitability was there and it was going to happen. So in a situation like that, you say, okay, it's going to happen. We can't stop it. Now, how do we deal with it? And you've heard how they've wanted to deal with it. He hasn't altered Roger Goodell or the owners from that course of saying we want it uniformed over all the states and it's about the integrity. They want Congress
to weigh in.
All the leagues are talking about the integrity, but we keep hearing that word, and they say they don't want any money, but we keep hearing that word intellectual property.
Correct.
And where is that going to go? And what is it exactly? It's a term right now, but when you get down to it, what is it? What do the leagues have as intellectual property that they can withhold if need be, or say, listen, you casinos, you can't use our intellectual property. And if you do, we're A, going to sue you, or B, for like these other leagues, you're going to give us money for it.
It's a negotiating tactic.
Right. And so I would imagine if there's a good negotiating ploy to it and it is found that the league should get money, I'd imagine the NFL is going to take the money.
Sure.
But it doesn't surprise me that they are basically saying, we're not in it for the money. We didn't want this in the first place. But if it's going to be here, this is kind of how we want to deal with it. That term intellectual property is the key term from the leagues. What is it? What are the specifics of that they can use, the leagues that want to get some money from this thing or a piece of the action, that will sway states to look at it, or the government to look at it in their favor, that says, hey, you can't use their stuff. They can withhold some things from you. You can't use their stuff, or you're going to be, you're going to get in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, listen, that word intellectual property, I think, leaves wiggle room for potentially, hey, if everyone else is getting a piece, maybe we'll figure this out. But again, the other thing that's really interesting about the NFL is that they have basically, the Supreme Court said, hey, we're striking down this federal law. Now Congress can pick it up if they want, and the NFL wants Congress to pick it up. So we'll see what happens there going forward. By the way, Merrill has just texted me about our segment. No one's better than you, and then he attached 8 poop emojis.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.